Hello and welcome to Netflix versus... wait a second. Yeah, it is recording. Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that is a nice little haven from all the football madness that's going on. Although the football madness has claimed one of our number, that is Sharon. My name is Tosin. I am the host of the podcast, and I am based in somewhere called Bromsgrove, just outside Birmingham. And joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And from London, it's our London correspondent who is fully living up to that title, Holiness Lane.
Hi.
As I said, Sean Harris is not with us today because he has been claimed by the football gods. I, on the other hand, am just trying to hide in a corner until it's all over. Anyway, if this is the first time you listen to us, what we do on this show is that we go to the cinema each week. We see a couple of things. We rate them out of 5. We stay at home. We watch a couple of things on various streaming platforms. We rate them out of 5. We put them up against each other and we see where our money has been better spent this week. So I ask you guys the the crucial question: what have we seen in the cinema this week?
Nothing. Well, one that we're saving for next week is Bad Boys, but more excitingly, I went to my first ever press screening and saw Exorcism.
Oh, yeah, Holly went to the press screening and saw The Exorcism. And all of a sudden, Holly has shown up with like a beret and a scarf, and she's not looking us in the eye anymore because she now hangs out with our betters. So tell us a little bit about this press screening. So this is the first press screening that we as Netflix versus Cinema have been invited to, that we've said yes to. So you went along to it. Tell us where. I think it was in Haymarket in London.
No, near Haymarket. It's relatively near to Tottenham Court Road Station. Okay. So off I toddled and then I followed back with actually reading a book as I walked there because I was, in the midst of nearly at the end of a book and I wasn't prepared to stop reading, and found myself at the studios where I was let into a fairly nondescript looking building that had multiple screens in it. I was I think third person in. I was on time. Yep. And settled myself down into a very comfortable but small cinema, good seats. And then and others arrived, and I looked up and thought, that's a familiar face. Am I right in thinking? And yes, I was correct. Mark Kermode was sitting in front of me. Oh. And I was very mature. I did not fangirl. Though I did immediately message you guys and
I was suitably excited on your behalf.
And Steph, who was very excited. And we all got to be very excited together that I was at a press screening and there were other people who looked familiar and who knew stuff about things, and it was I felt very, very small, so I sat very quietly.
Okay, so a couple of things from this, because, so you said you ended up with Mark Kermode. For anybody who does not know who Mark Kermode is, he is one of the preeminent film critics in the United Kingdom. So he's on the BBC, he has like a show with Simon Mayo, he's written books and everything like that, and pretty much, I think once Barry Norman retired, Mark Kermode was the film guy. He was like the film yardstick that everybody sort of like goes by. So a couple of things. First of all, when you send that message saying Mark Kermode is here or something like, I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but essentially it communicated that you were in the vicinity of Mark Kermode. And when you sent that, I was like, first thing was, oh, thank God, I didn't send Holly to
some sort of seedy dive.
Exactly.
They're not planning on murdering her, probably.
Exactly.
She will come back out again.
I mean, they might be planning on murdering her, but it seems less likely.
Yeah, because this might just be the dad in me now ever since I've become a father. But like immediately someone go, hang on a second, she's going that place. How do I know it's real? How do I know they're not Dodge? Oh my God, have I sent her into a trap? Mark Kermode's here. Oh, it's fine.
It's fine, yeah. It's like that. Is it full of creepy men?
Only 1 year older than me. Too young to be my father.
I know that, but it's like a switch in your head that goes off and does it. It's like what they say. They say that with mums, that there's like some hormone that. There's some hormone when a woman becomes a mother. Apparently, there's a hormone that gets secreted into her brain that means that any tiny sound that the child makes, she immediately goes on high alert. And apparently, once that bit switches on, it never switches off. So if you've ever thought your mom was like, a bit overbearing and everything like that, even though you are well advanced in your ages or anything like that, that's why. And I think that there is something similar with dads, where all of a sudden you become protective of almost everybody around you. And this is a bit problematic, but especially the women. I don't know. It's a bit problematic. But
even when they're very tall and capable of looking after themselves.
Even when they're very tall, capable of looking after themselves, and could kick you down the stairs in a heartbeat, it's still there.
You still have to be aware that you don't be sitting in the dark with some sort of creepy guy thinking, "Oh, where are you?" So we know that with Mark Kermode, you're safe.
Yes, he is anything but creepy.
Mark Kermode would take care of me.
Yes, Mark. Yes, Dr. Kermode. Dr. Kermode will take care of you. And the second thing was, so was there any sort of like after the film was over? Was there any sort of like fellow critic chat of like, oh yes, actually, so where do you come from? Or who do you work for? What publication are you here with?
No, everybody, headed off at their own pace afterwards. But in advance, people were lightly chit chatting as they knew each other and were sharing thoughts about not terribly important things, including going to their local cinema because it was too inconvenient to get to the old press screening. So they said, I just decided I'd rather go to the View down the road, which I appreciated. I felt like I was surrounded by people who knew each other. And, I would imagine they do because they all go to the same damn press screenings.
So did you chat to anybody else? Did you chat to anybody from any other media outlets?
No, beyond saying very nicely when somebody asked if he could get past me, I said, no, why didn't I actually move down a couple of seats? So other than the polite interaction and several moments in the film where everybody shared laughter at semi-in jokes.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, now I'm thinking.
In which case, we communicate as a collective, but not with words, but through.
All right, okay. I'm going to get you a Netflix versus cinema hoodie. So the next time you go to one of these,
I will take this. I have never been known to turn down a free hoodie, as you will. Just need to make sure the colour's the right one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get that. We're gonna get our own merch. We're gonna get merch, but we're the only ones who's gonna wear it. The merch is only for us. No one else is allowed to have the merch. So to get a hoodie, you have to have been on the podcast. All right, cool. That's good stuff. So you went to see The Exorcism in cinemas, and that is being released tomorrow, which is, and it's really weird because The Exorcism, they seem to have this. They have a very weird marketing strategy, which seems to be that they tell nobody about it until you go to the press screening, and then after you go to the press screening, the posters come out about 2 days before the film's released in cinemas. Because I have not seen a poster for this film until after you went to the press screening. Never heard of it. And it said being released on the 21st of June. I was like, that's in 2 days' time. That is in 2 days' time. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But okay, we'll talk about The Exorcism. I saw Inside Out 2 at the cinema. So Inside Out 2, the Pixar's... Yes, Holly?
Breaking news, Donald Sutherland has died.
Oh, good Lord.
Age 8 after a long illness.
Oh,
so, ladies and gentlemen, we are recording at 1821. At 1820, it was officially reported that Donald Sutherland had died.
Oh, good Lord.
He's one of the old patriarchs, isn't he?
Yeah.
He went from being a creepy guy in his youth to sort of becoming like the patriarch of American cinema, didn't he? Where he's assumed his sort of gravitas.
Yeah.
Quite creepy sometimes.
Oh, yeah, he was certainly, I thought in his younger days when he did is it Kelly's Heroes? I thought he was just creepy guy.
Yeah. Kelly's Heroes, where he had the curly black hair and the eyes. It was the curly black hair and the eyes. That combination was it worked really, really well in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Is it Day of the Locust is it the one where he was mad? He was mad in that as well.
No, I don't know.
It may not have been the Day of the Locust. It's about 1920s Hollywood scene. What am I thinking of? What film I was thinking of?
Do not know which one that is.
He's mad-eyed with curly hair in that, and he kills a child actor.
He was in Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now was the big 70s one that I was thinking of.
Very creepy. I mean, I've read the book. I can't remember the film. And of course, he was always creepy in the Hunger Games.
Yes, he was. He was the perfect President Snow. I think in the Hunger Games, it was the perfect President Snow. So it's oh man, that is weird because I was just hearing something the other day. They're talking about they have optioned a new Hunger Games movie that is going to be set during the Haymitch Abernathy Games, the one that Haymitch won, the Woody Harrelson character. And there was a discussion going on about who should play President Snow, and someone said Kiefer Sutherland because he is round about the right age that it would be for that time, so he could actually play the same role that his dad did. And then all of a sudden, the next day, you come up and you tell me Donald Sutherland's dead. It's weird how these things happen. Well, I feel like we do not have the time. We have been a bit blindsided. We do not have the time to actually give a proper tribute to the man, but we just sort of say, rest in peace, one of the giants of cinema. I don't think it's overstating to say that.
I agree, and we will come back, I'm sure, repeatedly to speak about Donald Sutherland films over coming weeks.
Outbreak. He was great in Outbreak.
Oh, yes.
Was in Clute as well.
He was in Clute. Yes, he was in Clute. Yeah, he was in Clute. Because he was one of those people who I only ever saw as an old person and then started finding out all his stuff when he was younger and going, oh my God, it's him!
And as he was older, Cold Mountain, obviously he played quite an avuncular character in Cold Mountain. So he went through this real sort of arc, didn't he, of what characters he could play.
Little Women.
Yes.
Yeah, Little Women, the Winona Ryder one, was it?
Yeah, must have been.
Oh no, wait, was it? Who played the dad in the new Little Women? No, he wasn't the Saoirse Ronan Little Women.
New one. He was neighbour. I waved my
grandfatherly neighbour.
Yes, Laurie.
Yes, I'm trying to think. Laurie's grandfather.
Is the one who gives
waving my hand in the air.
The one who is he the one who gives Beth a piano?
Yes.
Okay, but no, that means he was in Pride and Prejudice as Mr. Bennett.
Yes, he was in the Keira Knightley.
The Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. He was Mr. Bennett in that one.
Yes.
I knew he was a dad in one of the seminal novels that has a family with a lot of daughters. So yeah,
and an uncle in another. So there we have.
Yeah, done.
Multiple films, novels.
And there is no way of moving on from something like that. So I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to do a very, very disrespectful moving on and say, so what have we seen at home this week?
I have finished off the Bridgerton season 3, so I have seen Bridgerton season 3 part 2.
And Holly?
Have seen part of that and enough to probably, provide unhelpful comments. And I have seen, even though it's too early to review it, House of the Dragon season 2 episode 1.
Oh, okay, too, because we haven't seen the whole season yet. Okay, cool. I get you.
Episode 1 is out, and I have seen it twice.
All right, and I think of all the things that I have on the back burner that I haven't spoken about on this show, it might be time to talk about Constellation. I have postponed this about 3 or 4 times because something better came along, and I was like, I'd rather talk about this. So it's something on Apple TV Plus that I watched called Constellation. And yeah, I think that might be the case, but by the time we get to that stage of the show, I might decide, you know what, I want to just switch to something else, which might tell you a little bit about what I thought about Constellation. But so we have Bridgerton, however you spell that, and Constellation. All right, let us kick off in cinema, and I'm going to kick off with Inside Out 2. Now, Inside Out 2, does anybody remember Inside Out?
Is that the one with all the emotions?
That's the one, all the emotions inside a girl's head, inside a girl called Riley's head. And it's so you had the 5 emotions where joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger. Those are the four ones you had, and it was all about a girl who moved to a new city and how that was affecting with her. And it was, I remember Inside Out was the first film I ever gave 5 stars to, because since we started reviewing stuff, it was the first time I ever gave 5 stars to, because I just thought this film, what it does and how it goes on, it is amazing. And I will say it forever, Bing Bong. Bing Bong, which those of you who watch Inside Out will understand this, but Bing Bong has me in tears every single time I watch that film. I can catch bits of it on TV just like randomly. Bing Bong will have me in tears. I thought Inside Out was a brilliant film. So I was dreading this. I was dreading this because I am the kind of person that when I have something that's great and wonderful and perfect, I feel leave it well enough alone. You managed to create magic. Don't go back and mess. You can't do it again. That was my problem with it. I was just kind of like, please don't go back. So when they said they're going to do it Inside Out 2, I saw it as the thing of how Pixar is now being run by Disney, and therefore everything is being run by shareholders, and how they say, what made money? That. Let's have more of that, please, and all that. And a bit of a spoiler is that some of my fears were well founded, I think, but not all of them. Because it's about 2 years on from the first film. By this time, Riley has grown up a bit. She has settled into San Francisco where she is. She's part of the ice hockey team, which is a thing that she was really, really big on in the first film. And she has these friends that she's gotten. They're about to move from middle school to like a high school. And it turns out that they have to go in this hockey camp. And as they go in this hockey camp, it turns out that her friends might not, she might not have the same group of friends anymore, and she might have to get into with a new social circle. And as she's trying to figure out how to get with a new social circle, all of a sudden puberty hits because she's 13 years old. There's actually a puberty alarm that freaks all the emotions. They're like, what the hell is that? Oh my God! Ah! And then all these workmen come in and start because the way they do it inside is that there's a console, and at different points in time, different emotions come to the console and take control of the console. And these workmen come in and destroy the console, replace it with a new console, and then all these other emotions show up, like anxiety and ennui and embarrassment. So anxiety, ennui, embarrassment, envy show up. Those are the 4 new ones that show up. And it's all about how these new emotions show up, and they say, okay, yeah, you guys were great, but now she's about to go into adolescence and we need to prepare her for the future. And anxiety is like, my job is to think about everything that could possibly go wrong and make a plan for it. That's my plan. And I think anxiety is very well played by Maya Hawke, who there's a lot of energy about that. I think anxiety is actually really, really, really well sketched out. And so at the beginning, I was like, okay, this might be going somewhere. They might be getting away with it. And I thought that they set it up, okay. But then some things just don't quite... I feel like this is a much simpler story than the first film. I feel like it's a much simpler story, and it's kind of like, I felt I knew where this was going to go. I knew where this is going to go and everything like that. And I don't even feel like it's a spoiler to say. So if we learned anything from the first film, it's going to be a case of, all right, nobody is any one thing, and like all these emotions have got to learn how to get along. They've got to learn how to get along in their head. So that's where I know that it's going. But it feels almost as if no lessons were learned from the first films, like the emotions. And I'm not sure whether there's a comment on how emotions are just emotions. Like your joy doesn't become a more nuanced joy. But at the end of the first film, there was this whole thing where the emotions learned how to get along, and Joy realized that you need sadness, and you can't just sort of like bottle an emotion somewhere and put it away. You have to let it all out. And it feels like there's a bit of me that feels like they recycle the lessons from the first film. Like where we're going, everything like that, it just ends up in the same place. And a lot of stuff has been said about this film being like the best sequel that Pixar have made since Toy Story 3. And I was thinking about those two things. I think about Toy Story and Inside Out. Why is it that I love Toy Story 2? And what was the problem I had with Inside Out 2? And I feel like Toy Story 2 was kind of like, you took the same characters and you put them into a new situation. So I've heard this thing where people say Toy Story 1 is about dealing with a new guy at work. Like you are the star at work, then a new guy at work shows up at work, and then all of a sudden you're no longer the star. How do you deal with that? That's what Toy Story 1 is all about. Toy Story 2 is about wondering whether you're too old for this and whether you should sort of like, leave the scene and let somebody else take over. And Toy Story 3 is about retirement. So it's the same characters but in different stages. And I loved that whole thing about Toy Stories. With this, I feel like it's a different stage on the outside because it's puberty and it's adolescence, but there are some things that I don't think are as well thought out as they are in the first film. Like for instance, envy. I don't think envy, I feel like they haven't really nailed what envy is, or what the character of envy is in this. Like, what is envy supposed to do and how it's supposed to so besides anxiety, I mean, embarrassment is embarrassment. So embarrassment just is big, massive, tries to hide but can't really hide, and is red, and just sort of like keeps, like, doesn't say anything because it's too embarrassed, and just keeps. And so you have all that, and ennui just sort of lounges on the sofa and goes. Ennui is French, and just lounges on the sofa and just kind of goes, why? Why do I have to do anything? No, that. So there are these little funny bits, and it's better than I thought it would be. But I still think that it feels a little bit like a TV special. Like, Disney had this whole thing where they'll make a really good film and then they'll have like a straight. And if this had showed up on TV, I don't think it would have been out of place. It feels a little bit like a rehash of the first film for me. It kind of ends in a very obvious, this is where we're going to go. And it feels like the lessons that were learned in the first film were just learned again. And it's so I was, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I think the best thing I can say about this is that it works really well as a follow-on from Inside Out. It's a bit like how we spoke about Furiosa the last week, and I spoke about how Furiosa it makes Mad Max Fury Road make sense for me. Like, those two things, they flow into each other quite well, and I think this works well as a follow on from Inside Out, almost like what Riley did next. But on its own, I just don't think it hits the 5-star heights of Inside Out 1, which I love with a passion. They are, and I will stop there. So 3 stars from me for Inside Out 2. Right, and now we're going to go from there, and we're going to go talk about Netflix and Friends, and we're going to talk about Bridgerton Season 3, Part 2. So, Sharon, tell us about the bodice-ripping yarn that is Bridgerton in Regency period England. Or what I've decided Bridgerton is it's a parallel universe. It's a parallel universe Regency period England.
That's the only way you can look at it, because otherwise it just nothing makes sense.
Yeah,
because
100%.
It's just not the Regency, so it's like you just can't think of it as a Regency setting because it's just not.
I mean, I think it's for that. I personally think that it's better for that, but you have to think of it as an alternative universe, because if you try and think of it as a historical thing, it falls apart really quickly.
Yeah, it just makes your head hurt trying to work out what that's about. And it's like, even things like the clothes are completely insane if you look at them as a Regency outfit. But when you look at them as like, this is a Regency, I call it the sort of Regency on acid, because it's just slightly trippy.
Inspired outfits.
Yeah, so some of them are crazy, but they work because they're just so crazy. And others, you're just thinking, you don't get this period at all. So you have to ignore that. And to me, I view it as a complete fantasy. It's a fantasy world, and its parallel universe is a good way of explaining it. So for reasons only known to Netflix, they split the season into 2 parts.
I think we know the reason. I think it had to do with the Hollywood strikes, the actors' strike.
Yeah, so it's sort of dragged out that whole process.
So I think when they released the first half, they were still putting the second half together.
Oh, right. So right up to the last minute then.
Yeah.
So this is basically the story of the first half, where we were left with Colin and Penelope. She's loved him since she first set eyes on him. He's been a bit slower to pick up on it, but he's been on his grand tour. And then he's come back from his grand tour and he's suddenly gone, hey, Penelope, you're all grown up now. And then they sort of get together. But there's still secrets between them. So we know in the world of any fantasy fiction or any romantic fiction that there's one thing that the romantic writer does not like, and that is secrets. And so Penelope has a big secret. Those of people who have watched Bridgerton know that her secret is that she is Lady Whistledown. And Lady Whistledown is like the gossip columnist par excellence, who basically has the whole ton in the palm of her hand.
Yeah.
And and the Queen especially is dying to know who is Lady Whistledown. And her best friend Eloise Bridgerton found out that Penelope was Lady Whistledown, and it's destroyed their friendship basically. And now the pressure is on Penelope is like to come clean to Colin before you get married, because you should not go into marriage with this big secret hanging over you. So there's that element of tension. It's like, will she tell? Well, how will they divulge this secret? And And that is played out over these episodes.
Yes.
And then with all these Bridgerton series, because there's lots of siblings, you get little side stories. So in this one, you get the side stories about Colin's older brother Benedict and his younger sister Francesca.
Yeah.
And so you see about their sort of romantic storylines are sort of unfolding. So yes, it does that. It sort of follows the sort of broadly the route of the book, where you get scenes of intimacy, shall we say? And there is quite a fame that while in the book it's, you know, I read the books 20 odd years ago, so they are not fresh in my mind.
Yep.
But I do seem to remember that Colin and Penelope did, shall we say, get familiar with one another.
Yes.
Before their wedding.
Yes.
And there's one particular scene that has caused a bit of, I think they're the sort of keyboard warriors who've sort of taken to town on it, because in this season, Penelope and Colin are viewing their own home, and they decide that they're going to take on the opportunity of getting better acquainted.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, in the first half of the season, we had the carriage scene, and everybody spoke about the carriage scene, which they started calling them Poland, which I don't like. I don't like Poland. I prefer Penelope.
It's like answer smash, isn't it?
It is.
How to say some of those?
Penelope, yeah, but it's yeah, but it's so we had that, and then in this season, there's been a big talk about this one scene, and it's I feel like it's one of those things, because I said the last time, Bridgerton is a romantic comedy. It follows all the beats of a romantic comedy. There's a secret. It shall be revealed. Oh my God, will the lovers be ripped apart forever? Oh no, they'll come back together. And it follows all those things. So I feel like there's some things where you think, so the big sex scene that they talk about, which is a bit different from other sex scenes that you've had in Bridgerton so far, has been like this one. I think they're trying to go for something a bit more, because I've seen the first episode of this, and they're trying to go for something that's a bit more tender. And people were like, and I saw one review that said, this is a riposte to anybody who says that sex scenes are totally unnecessary in films and TV and everything. And I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm just a prude, but I found that scene to be incredibly cringe. I found that scene to be massively. To say,
I did as well. I thought it went on too long.
I just thought it was really cringe-worthy. I could hardly watch it.
I found the majority of the sex scenes in all of the series pretty cringe, and I'm not a prude. I'm perfectly happy with sex scenes in other series. I just find it, I
didn't find it. It didn't work for me. Again, I think I would probably say I am a prude, and I sort of fly my sort of, prudish, spinsterish, colours sort of proudly. But I found that it was, to me it was. And again, in other films, I'm thinking that's not too bad actually. It's done quite discreetly. But I think where they were sort of trying to be a bit more. Trying to be bolder with saying that she's a fuller figured. Should we say she's got a fuller figure than some of the other actresses? Yeah. And she was saying, I want to be, sort of, proudly naked in this scene. Yeah. I didn't have that. Wasn't my biggest issue with it. I just found
that wasn't my issue with it whatsoever.
No.
I thought that she was filmed rather fractionally. Actually, I thought she's got beautiful skin all over. So.
Overall, she is just a fantastic looking woman. So there's nothing.
Yeah.
I do not disagree with that.
But I just did not think. For me, I just didn't. I found, to me, there was something lacking in the chemistry between them. When everyone says, they've got great chemistry, I didn't see it. And so where I didn't see that chemistry, I didn't feel that chemistry, it became embarrassing. And I find when you can see there's chemistry between them, when you sort of you believe them, you think, that doesn't feel embarrassing. But I didn't feel that chemistry between them. So to me, it was two strangers sort of being made to do something that didn't look
well, this is funny. I think this is running the whole gamut, because I do think that there's chemistry between them. I actually do really like them together. And I think since the first season of Bridgerton, I've been like, will these two idiots just get over themselves and get together? So
when you see the actors together, they are just so comfortable in their own skin with each other. It's really funny. It's actually really nice. Actually, the whole cast are just really funny to see together.
Yeah.
Really just. I don't do anything other than hang out with you lot, do I?
Exactly. I mean, I think like honestly, some of the family scenes in Bridgerton are actually some of my favorite family scenes I think I've seen.
Yeah.
Like where like they get together and Hyacinth is all like, "Oh my god, you're gonna be my sister!" And all like all of that stuff. I really, really.
Oh, the behind the scenes stuff is an absolute blast.
Yeah, yeah. But for some reason, that scene, I thought I think you could see what they were going for, and you could see what they were trying to go to for like a reality about that time and about how sexually closeted women were kept deliberately, and I think like you could see what they were trying to go, but that scene didn't work for me. It was. I think it went on too long and it was too cringe.
Because I think we do also know that women weren't necessarily that sexually closeted either. So,
well, we know not all women were, but
I think it sort of plays to it because it was actually a relatively. Georgians were relatively liberated, certainly with as these things went. I mean, George III was famously monogamous, but his father and grandfather weren't, and his son married.
Oh yeah, but those are all the men.
So it was, but there were women who were quite, easygoing. I
think it was more if you were a debutante, you were expected to behave until you got married and you gave your husband a child. And then if you were in the upper echelons, after that, you basically could do your own thing. So I think I know some famous sort of households were known as, I can't remember the name of the family, but they were called like the miscellany because they knew who the father of the first two children were. But after that, it was like anyone's guess. So, because, you were expected to be chaste and faithful literally until you delivered the heir. And after that, it's all bets are off. And there was, amongst the aristocracy, I mean, the middle classes were much more sort of prudish. And the lower classes.
But we've kind of derailed your review of Bridgerton season 3 part 2. So and we've done what they probably wanted us to do when they made this and just talked about the sex. So yes. But generally speaking, what did you think of the thing in its entirety?
I would say to me it was okay. I didn't love it, and I think as I expressed when I saw the first half, I liked the first season. I thought that was a guilty pleasure. It was a bit of a romp. It was a bit of fun. Yeah. The second one, less so, but again, the characters were likable and it kept you involved in it. And you kept going with it. And again, I liked the chemistry between them. This one, I was less involved. I found it a bit more of a slog. So I did manage to watch the 4 remaining episodes over 2 days. I watched 2 and 2.
Yeah.
But I must admit, I found it a bit more of like okay, I'll watch it. Just watch it. Whereas I didn't eagerly think, oh yes, Bridgerton. I found it I wasn't sucked in as much. I'm finding I'm getting slightly over the whole Regency on acid look of the show. To me, I'm just slightly over it. I'm thinking, and I watched Emma, which was on the television, which is more like classically Regency, and I was like, oh, it's so nice to see someone with hand curled hair and hand stitched clothes and to make it looked right, felt right. I liked the music and I just liked it. And then when you compare it to Bridgerton, you're like, this is just, we explained, it's a fantasy. So you got to accept it for what it is. You have to view it within that prism. But I didn't love this season. I thought it was okay, but I didn't love it, and I didn't really feel that connected to the characters. And I'm really not. If in the previous bunch, the anticipation is like, oh, what they're going to do next. My anticipation is sort of like diminishing rapidly for the next one. So I'm really a bit like, yeah, okay. If it's going to be 2 years, I might not even. I might be well over it by then.
Yeah.
Before the next one's out. But for me, it was a 3. I couldn't really give it any more than that, and it was just about a 3 because I was a bit ambiguous about this one. I didn't love it, and I didn't find it as engrossing or as engaging as others of this season. What did you think, Holly? You've only seen part of it, but what did you think?
I think that's pretty much on the nose. It's fine, and I find the cast quite delightful. I enjoy watching videos of them on Instagram. They make me giggle. But I think I like them on Instagram more than I like the series. And I'm not sure if that's a statement of modern life and one's attention span, or a damning indictment of something.
It is, and I, on the other hand, was watching this over my wife's shoulder, which is how I watch Bridgerton. She watches it, and I sort of like watch it, and I annoy her with, "Oh my God, what's she done now? Who's there? Oh, what did Lady Featherington do?" Because Lady Featherington is my favorite character.
Yeah, she's a blast. And I liked her in this. She was actually the best thing about this. I thought.
She is hilarious. She is hilarious.
Absolute delight. She's good in everything. I can't think what else she's been in. She's always
Polly
good.
Walker. She's in Rome. She was in Enchanted April many years ago when she was. Well, she's still beautiful now, but she was stunning when she was.
She's just wonderful. I love her.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, I think she's brilliant. She's brilliant. I mean, love her in this. I think she's brilliant.
It is a spectacular cast.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
But if it is this, because I watched pretty much none of season 2. I watched it over my wife's shoulder, and I was like, okay, what's happening? Well, he's been an idiot. Okay, he's gonna see his love. Okay, he's gonna see he loves her. Blah blah blah. But this actually made me think, watching bits of this movie, think maybe I should start watching this again. I actually enjoyed the bits of season 3 that I watched. But now that my wife has finished it, I don't feel the need to go watch it by myself. I'm like, no, I'm not watching it unless I'm watching it with you. So it's
watchable, though. I'd say it's thoroughly watchable.
It is watchable, but it is watchable. I still think it is still watchable. Although I am here for the Eloise story. They need to do the Eloise story. If there is an Eloise story,
that was my favourite book. So I'm thinking, but it was one of the later books. I think book 5 or something. So I'm thinking, oh, please just get on with Eloise.
Because they're all getting a bit old in a good way for them as actors. But they're now all the women are in their 30s, and it's not long that you can pretend that you're 19 when you're 35.
Yeah, because it's Claudia Jessie. Claudia Jessie is 34.
Yeah,
she's 34, and it's and I'm like, I love her. I love her performance and everything. I really like Eloise, but they need to carry on and do that story quick. But okay,
I can't see how they're going to do it unless they sort of double up. But I'm thinking, if they're going to do like each sibling has their own series, they're just not going to get through them.
No, I don't think they're going to do that. Because I mean,
it's going to be like Benedict and Eloise. I think are they just going to do Benedict and Eloise and leave? But I think they've been saying a lot about. We see Francesca's future spouse. We've already met them because anyone who reads the books knows that she is married twice. But we've seen her future spouse in this season, and we have met Eloise's future spouse in season 1. But we haven't met Benedict's future spouse. So they've teased them.
Oh, good Lord! This is this is me. Like you see, okay, like Holly, you go read the book. I go. I want to go back and see if I can figure out who the spouse is.
That as well. I'm not ruling. These are not either ors. Foolish.
Okay, cool. But okay, we need to move on. So that's 3 stars for Bridgerton season 3 part 2. And now we're going to talk about the film. And the big question is, Holly, will this film get given an extra star due to the presence of Mark Kermode?
Wait and see. So the premise of the film is, and I'm going to add that the original title of the film was
the Pope's Exorcist 2.
No, it was the Georgetown Project.
Okay.
And the film begins in what you rapidly realise is a film set. And there is a man wandering around with a script, reading out bits, which rapidly, for those who are familiar with the horror genre, feels remarkably like the script from The Exorcist.
Yep.
And of the original, the 1970s Exorcist. And as he walks into he does the walk along the street in front, and he walks into the house, and he's, speaking to, non-present characters. He's trying out his lines and getting his feel for it. And something bad happens. And then the opening credits roll.
Okay, no, carry on before I ask the question.
So, you do interject as you see fit.
I was just going to ask, so is this actually set on the set of The Exorcist? because I know that there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened on the set of The Exorcist that was so weird that they actually did bring an exorcist in to sort of like try and clear the set before they carried on filming.
It becomes apparent then that Russell Crowe's character, who is an actor who has a long history of substance abuse, and as becomes apparent, had lost his wife to cancer some years previously and has a troubled relationship with his daughter, which is unsurprising given the extent of his substance abuse.
Yeah.
And he is reading up he's prepping a script for something called the Georgetown Project, which is rapidly becomes apparent is a remake of The Exorcist.
Okay.
And his daughter gets kicked out of school. He has already fought to get her back in, but she has to stick around at home for a while, so he gets her a job as a PA on the set, and he battles his way through his own very painful personal demons to get this part. He had not only suffered the years of alcohol and drug abuse and going out and sleeping with every prostitute under the sun and who knows what else, but also as a lot of this comes back from childhood trauma when he'd been an altar boy. Yeah. And it's known that bad things had happened. And his faith and lack thereof is a fundamental theme that moves throughout the film.
Yeah.
And how he feels about this. And he arrives on the set to begin filming, and with his daughter in tow, who must be about 16 or 17, and meets on the set a priest who has been brought in as a spiritual advisor / coach on the Mystic. And I have to double check what his actual name is because I always forget. And he is played by David Hyde Pierce, or Niall.
Oh yeah, Niles Crane,
as we all know him, which is weird. It's really disconcerting because he has got older, which happens to people because that's how aging works. I do understand. Yep. And also suddenly he's a priest, and but a priest who I don't think is an unnecessary spoiler. It turns out is also a psychiatrist. So for a bit of neatness to it. And as the filming of the film progresses, various untoward things happen, and the reason that Russell Crowe's character is now up for the role is because the previous main character, who was the priest, is the person who died in these mysterious circumstances on set.
Okay, gotcha.
And
is that a spoiler?
No, it's not.
Okay, cool.
Happens in the first minute and a half.
Okay, gotcha.
Is it a spoiler? Yes and no, because it's literally the only way he could have ended up there. And it is very apparent. And strange things happen during the filming of the film. And as I say, Russell Crowe's character Anthony Miller has his own demons of the absolutely worldly kind.
Okay.
He is battling with addiction, based upon the medication you hear he's taking. There's clearly psychiatric conditions in there. He's on various pills, or meant to be on various pills. Okay. And so you have these complicated relationships between him and his daughter, and the film go.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that's premise. Horror. What do you think of it?
It is an incredibly. It does a really good job of being jumpy.
Okay.
Very jumpy. There are not consistently throughout, but there are moments where there were 2 points where I did half hide behind my hands because you could feel the jump coming, but I wasn't quite ready to look to see what the jump was going to be.
Yeah.
So it does that really well. I found it slightly dragged. I was very carefully not checking my watch. I had everything on silent and blackout mode, but there were various points where I was just like, are we nearly there yet? It's well constructed. It's well thought out in many ways. It's quite odd, and I say that not in a bad way because I like odd. Mm-hmm. I will watch it again because I will go and see it in the cinema with Steph.
But even with the presence of Dr. Kermode, you are going to have to give it a 3.
It's a 3. Yep, not blown away. Just wasn't blown away, and I had really hoped that I would be. Interestingly, the magic of the internet informs me that this was actually filmed before The Pope's Exorcist. This was technically the first of Russell Crowe's ventures into weird exorcism films.
And he was like, oh, I love that so much, but that hasn't been released yet. You know what? I'm going to go play The Pope's Exorcist, yeah.
But it had good twists. It had good jumps. It was well thought out. It just didn't quite... It didn't, sweep me off my...
Things, I would love it, right? I would love it if it turned out that Russell Crowe now goes into a stage where he just decides Liam Neeson had his geriaction phase, which he's probably still in. This is my Catholic priest phase. I'm gonna do exorcisms as Catholic priests.
Liam Neeson hasn't moved into normal films again yet. So maybe we've got a 10-year cycle coming, 15 cycle of Russell Crowe just being priests or acting as priests or being around demons, and it's kind of boring.
It's going to be quite boring, did you say?
It will be if we have to watch 15 films of him.
15 films of Russell Crowe. Well, I'll tell you.
Things and people.
I'll tell you, but what you said, from the plot of this, sounds like there's more to it. But what was the general feel? So tell me, what was it like in the press screen? Could you sort of suss how people were feeling about the film, but those who were beside you? Were people doing a Sharon and fidgeting in their seats or checking their watches or making notes or
no obvious movements? There were a number of points in the film where everybody in the room laughed, though, and I am not entirely sure whether or not they were meant to be funny points, but they were funny. And I'm not sure if they were funny for people who... I'm not sure if they're funny, generally funny, or funny to people who've seen a lot of films.
Oh, yeah.
And I genuinely don't know whether it was just funny because I also found it funny because it's genuinely funny, or if it's funny because it's an in-joke, and weirdly, I now watch enough films that...
Yeah.
I get film in-jokes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a film about filming a film. So,
yes.
It was hard. There were some bits where you just had to have a sort of gentle smirk to yourself because you're watching a ridiculous film about the filming of a horror where, creepy, weird, bad things are happening.
It sounds like the kind of dilemma I have when I'm watching Dune, and I'm like, does anybody get this if they haven't read the book? All right, but so that's 3 stars for the...
I have to send you an Insta thing, by the by, about Timothée Chalamet.
All right, cool.
As a spoiler for everyone else, you can add a link to it on the podcast notes.
Yep, we'll put a link to it if anybody wants to know what cryptic thing Holly's going to send me about Timothée Chalamet. So that's it. 3 stars for the Exorcism, our first ever press screening. Holly, I sent you an email. There's another one happening.
Yay!
There's another one happening. I forwarded you an email, and I've requested another ticket. But let's carry on. And we're going to go to Apple TV Plus, and we're going to talk Constellation. This is the show that has been out for probably about 2 months now. I've watched it probably about a month ago, and I keep putting off talking about it. And it is a sci-fi show. It is a science fiction show, and it stars Noomi Rapace of Girl in the Dragon Tattoo fame, the Swedish version. And this all starts off with it starts off on a space station. It starts on the International Space Station, and you meet Noomi Rapace. You see her going around, and you see all the different astronauts from different countries who are on there. She's from Sweden. There's an American on there. There's a Russian on there. I think it's somebody from Finland, and they're doing all these operations and everything, and they're doing all these experiments that they're supposed to be doing in zero gravity. They switch one of the experiments on, and excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. they switch on an experiment, and as they switch on an experiment, something hits the space station. And then the first episode of this becomes Gravity. It's like a remake of the film Gravity with Sandra Bullock, where it's all about, all right, that's at the space station. How do we survive? That person's lost an arm. We go in here. You go into the escape pod. Okay, we're going to the escape pod. We only have space for 3 people. There's 4 people on here. You go back to Earth. Right, I'm left here. What do I do? All right, you need to go and do all this all this stuff, and move this battery from here to that place, and move that battery from there to that place, because if you don't do that, you're gonna die. And it all becomes like almost like a survival horror of how do you get from the space station back to Earth when half the thing has been blown up and nothing's working. And so this all happens. Eventually, people manage to get back down to Earth. But in the process of getting to Earth, weird things start happening. Like there's time jumps all of a sudden. She's on the space station and she's like, "Hang on a second. I thought I had 5 hours to do this, and now I only have 3. Where did those 2 hours go?" She gets back down to Earth, and it seems like there's weird things going on. Like her at the beginning, when you meet her, she's speaking Swedish with her daughter. She's married to an English guy. They live in, I think, where do they? I think they live in Russia because no, they can't be in Russia. They live somewhere. They live somewhere else because of the whole sort of space station thing and the whole astronaut stuff. And she's speaking Swedish with her daughter at the beginning of the film because her daughter has learned Swedish from her. She gets back down to Earth, and it turns out that her daughter doesn't speak Swedish. And she's like, what the heck's going on? It turns out that there's this weird thing going on where it seems like her husband is colder to her than she is to him, and it's almost as if he's pulling away from her. And he seems really confused about the fact that he actually says the line, "You seem to like me." And she's like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I like you? You're my husband," and all that. And it carries on and all. There's 8 episodes of this stuff, and it very slowly sort of tries to build up what is going on. At the same time, you meet Jonathan Banks, who plays this scientist who seems to have, I'm not sure, it seems like a split personality, because at sometimes you meet him and he's like a scientist, and sometimes you meet him, he's a Vietnam vet, and you're like, what happened? And it's just all sort of weird and stuff. And I think this tries to be quite clever with its whole, look at us, look how sci-fi we're being, or look how thinky sci-fi we are. And I don't know, it's a bit like what Holly was saying, whether something is just funny to people who watch a lot of films, or whether it's actually just funny. And I kind of thought it was obvious what was going on, and I'm not sure whether it's just because I've hung out with a lot of physicists who talk about things like this, or if I've just seen things like this before. And it made me think of, there was something else I had watched recently that I was like, well, obviously this is what's happening. That's what, and I think it becomes quite clear quite early on. But they do try and hide it, and they try and go, ooh, and by the time they go, this is what's happening, I'm like, I was 2 episodes ahead of you. So it's, and then after that, it kind of drags a little bit, and it kind of gets to a point, and then it gets to a point where I am not sure the internal logic of the show holds together. I'm not sure that the internal logic of the show holds together when they say, why is everything different? Like, why does her husband seem to think that she hates him? Why does her daughter not speak Swedish? Why does she remember the car being red but now it's blue? All these sort of things. And when they sort of explain it and they go to it, I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure that. But if you did that, wouldn't that mean that? I mean, if you did that, wouldn't that mean that? I'm not really. And then it ends, the final shot of it ends in this kind of dun dun dun, season 2. And I'm like, no, that makes no sense. The way you ended it, that final shot was something that was done almost like for a jump scare, and not really because it made any sense. And it was because somebody was thinking, let's make as much money out of this thing, let's get a season 2. It has been cancelled. There is no season 2. Because there is no season 2. And I think, quite frankly, that is right, because I think that the story ends where it ends. It ends in a way, it's one of these things where it doesn't get tied up in a nice little bow, but there is some resolution at the end of the story, which, and I actually quite like that. I quite like the way it ended. But the show in all, I have to give it's a low 3. I think it would be really, really churlish to give it a 2, but because it is really well made, the performances are good, there are some good ideas in there, I just feel like I think it's a bit ponderous, and I think it thinks it's cleverer than it actually is, or I think it thinks it's cleverer than I found it, essentially. So I would give it, it's a 3-. It's a low 3 for me, but just about a 3. Would I recommend anybody watch it? Not really. I mean, if you like, it would have to.
Lord.
Even if somebody was really, really into the physics of it and really, really into the idea, and some people will understand what I mean when I say quantum supposition. So if anybody, or superposition, sorry, if anybody was into that all that kind of stuff I'm thinking about, even if they were, I just don't think the story is told particularly well, and I think it has some holes in it. So I don't really think I would recommend anybody sat through 8 hours of this. So that's it. 3 stars minus 4 Constellation. Only because I think 2 would just be me being vindictive. So, all right. So with that, question to ask you all. Who do you think has won this week? Netflix or cinema?
Well, it was 3s across the board, so I think we have a tie.
I think we do. I think we do have a tie, unless we say that the
minus
being quite so bad. But then, I'm not sure that the experience of seeing the Exorcism was enough to give it a plus 3. So I think we're still sitting at a firm middle of the road.
Yep. So it's a good middle of the road week for everybody. A good middle of the road time was had by everyone.
Exactly.
Right. So, and I mean, there's worse things that could happen. So I think that is it. Please do follow us on Twitter at Netflix via Cinema. Follow us on, Facebook, if that thing's still a thing. If wherever you listen to this, do give us a star rating. It would be good to hear what you say. And on YouTube, yes, YouTube, Netflix via Cinema on YouTube. Follow us, see what we say. Give us what you think about the films that we spoke about. Maybe you go see The Exorcism this weekend, if you can find it somewhere near you, because it hasn't been hidden. And you tell us what you thought about it. Tell us what you thought about Russell Crowe in his Catholic priest phase. Or to be topical, his Catholic priest era.
Or in this case, remember, acting as a Catholic priest. Acting as someone acting as a Catholic priest.
He's just trying to get all kinds of manners of things to do with Catholic priests. You know?
He's looking for the Catholic priest, royal flush.
It's like he's going to act as a Catholic priest. He's going to act as someone acting as a Catholic priest. He's going to be a Catholic priest who always wanted to make a movie and directs one. He's going to go become a Catholic priest in real life.
I don't say, is he going to become a Catholic priest? Because that's
the next step.
He's going to make a documentary about himself becoming a Catholic priest. That's
Well, it used to be a thing. If you played a nun, you got an Oscar nod. So maybe he's hoping to sort of push that Catholic priest vibe. To get him his sort of, his second nod.
I think it would be.
I would suggest against that as a
strategy. Maybe not going to work then.
Not unless he's planning on the Catholic priest film being quite transformative in its approach. I don't feel there's an Oscar waiting
market there. No,
I don't think Russell Crowe cares about any of that anymore. I think Russell Crowe just cares about having fun.
I think he probably had fun with this.
Yeah, so. I think Russell Crowe only cares about having fun. He's kind of like, will they let me do it? Cool, I'll do it. So
that's an approach in life. If you can just do what you think is fun and you're not hurting anybody else, then go do what's fun.
Yes. So until next week, I'm going to be in Cardiff this weekend, which means I'm going to have more people to look after my kids, which means I might just go to the cinema and see Bad Boys for Life.
Yes.
We shall see. Because that is the film that I have left because I think we have let's see, we have The Bike Riders coming out, we have Bad Boys Riders that are still around, we have If that none of us have seen yet.
Now I'm on the Bike Riders the weekend. And I've seen Bad Boys for Life this week.
I think me and Shawnee are planning on seeing a preview of the Kevin Costner Western.
Horizon.
That is Horizon. I think that is coming to the Isle of Wight.
All right,
preview,
cool.
So we're going to try and catch that this week.
Interesting.
All right, and there's a film in here. Okay, this film I've heard absolutely nothing about it. This poster on the link on the View website is the first I've ever heard about it, but it is something that I think is upright both your alleys. So guess what I'm going to say? Guess what's going to be in this film?
Is it a shark film? Is it a shark film?
I will give you the title and the synopsis, and I'll leave it up to you to decide whether you think it is or isn't. It's called Something in the Water.
Oh.
It's called Something in the Water. And the synopsis says, follows a group of 5 girlfriends who must fight for their lives in open water after a dream wedding is transformed into a nightmare. Dun, dun, dun!
Bitey.
So what was that?
Be bitey.
Something bitey under the water, maybe.
I'm looking at the poster now, and I can neither confirm or deny that there might be something underneath the water with a fin.
I have to watch it. When's this out?
This is out this weekend.
Oh, I'll keep an eye out for that one then.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I'll be really surprised if this isn't. I mean, it's got to be somewhere near. I don't know about the Isle of Wight, but Holly, I would imagine it'll be somewhere near you.
Might scare people.
I will find a way of watching this. We will find a way of watching this.
Yep.
Everything else be damned.
It's got Something in the Water, yeah. And it looks like it has a young, nubile cast of unknowns. So they're all up for grabs.
Yeah.
Well, we know anybody who engages in sexually immoral activity will be the first to go, because that's how shark films and all.
Yeah, well, no, Holly, you've got to get the trope right. Any woman who engages.
Sorry, yes. No, it's fine.
And we have 5 of them. There are 5 of them in the water, and they're all wearing 2-piece bathing suits, which means immoral. That's it.
Every last one of them done bad things.
Let whatever horror lies beneath out on them. But anyway, I just realized we're still recording. But and I haven't said goodbye. And I haven't said goodbye yet. So until next week, when we may or may not watch something that may or may not have something with sharks in it, it's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. New shark film.